Did you know that for decades, a golden rhinoceros, representing a thriving African kingdom, was hidden away to perpetuate a lie? The lie that Africa had no history, no civilization worth mentioning. That's the myth we're tackling today. We're diving into the real history of Africa, separating fact from fiction, and revealing the impressive achievements that have been deliberately obscured. The story begins with massive stone walls rising out of the Zimbabwean landscape. We are talking about Great Zimbabwe, a city built by the Shona people between the 11th and 15th centuries. These aren't just walls, they are architectural marvels, reaching up to 11 meters high and stretching 250 meters in circumference. For centuries, Europeans refused to believe that Africans could have built such a complex structure. But archaeological evidence, including radiocarbon dating of artifacts unearthed by David Randall McIver in 1905, proves without a doubt that Great Zimbabwe was built by the ancestors of the Shona. It was a thriving metropolis with a population peaking at 18,000, exporting gold to the Swahili coast and beyond. Further south, in the Limpopo River Valley, lies another testament to African ingenuity, the Mapungubwe Kingdom. Flourishing from around 1075 to 1220 CE, it was the first state in southern Africa. In 1932, mine workers stumbled upon a royal burial site, unearthing the iconic golden rhinoceros, a tiny but powerful symbol of the kingdom's wealth and sophistication. This kingdom traded ivory and gold with places as far away as Kilwa in Tanzania, boasting a population of around 5,000 people. But here's the shocking part: during the apartheid era in South Africa, the discovery of the golden rhinoceros was deliberately suppressed. The government feared it would challenge their narrative of an empty land, a myth used to justify white settlement. For decades, the artifact was locked away, hidden from the world. This suppression speaks to a larger issue: the deliberate erasure of African contributions to world history. Consider the work of W.E.B. the brilliant African-American scholar and activist. In 1909, he conceived of the Encyclopedia Africana, a comprehensive record of African history and culture. But it wasn't until 1962, when Kwame Nkrumah invited Dubois to Ghana, that the project truly took off. Dubois, then 94 years old, dedicated the last years of his life to this monumental task, even after being stripped of his U.S. passport. He died in Accra in 1963, leaving behind a legacy of scholarship and a commitment to reclaiming African narratives. The scale of the transatlantic slave trade is another aspect often downplayed or misunderstood. Between 1501 and 1866, an estimated 12.5 million Africans were forcibly shipped across the Atlantic. During peak periods in the 1780s, West and Central Africa lost 1 to 2% of their population annually. The impact on African societies was devastating, disrupting social structures, economies, and political systems. But even amidst this horrific period, African ingenuity continued to flourish. The Nok culture, which thrived in Nigeria from 1500 BC to 500 CE, provides a compelling example. They were among the earliest iron smelters in sub-Saharan Africa, mastering the technology around 1000 BC. Their advanced techniques enabled them to produce tools and weapons that supported agriculture and a population of over 100,000 people. The Iboku bronzes, dating back to the 9th century CE, are another testament to African artistry and technical skill. These intricate castings rivaled those of Ife and Benin, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of metallurgy and lost wax casting. So, where did the myth of a historyless Africa originate? It's rooted in centuries of racism and the need to justify the slave trade and colonization. The Dark Continent trope, popularized by Henry Morton Stanley's book in 1878, painted Africa as a land of savagery and ignorance, ripe for exploitation. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 formalized the partition of Africa among 14 European powers, completely disregarding the thousands of pre-colonial states and societies that already existed. The Mali Empire, flourishing from 1235 to 1670, was dismissed or ignored, even though accounts from the 14th century traveler Ibn Battuta describe its wealth and sophistication, comparing its GDP to that of France. Archaeology has played a crucial role in dismantling these myths. Post-World War II excavations at Great Zimbabwe, led by archaeologists like Roger Somers, used scientific methods to refute earlier claims that the site was built by Phoenicians or other outsiders. These discoveries fueled Pan-Africanism, inspiring movements for independence and self-determination. Kwame Nkrumah, in his 1957 independence speech, even cited Mapungubwe as a symbol of African achievement. The economic consequences of the slave trade were far-reaching. Studies have shown that it reduced Africa's GDP growth by 0.72% annually between 1700 and 1850. The decline of Mapungubwe around 1220 is now understood to be linked to climate change and droughts, not to any inherent inferiority. Even today, the legacy of these myths persists. However, sites like Great Zimbabwe and Mapungubwe are now being promoted as tourist destinations, generating revenue and fostering a sense of national identity. The African Union's call for reparations includes a demand for recognition of the historical injustices of the slave trade. And in South Africa, the Mapungubwe exhibit has influenced the post-apartheid curriculum, ensuring that future generations learn about the achievements of indigenous African societies. Modern innovations, such as Nigeria's Ojikuta steel plant and Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, build upon centuries of African ingenuity and technical expertise. The Encyclopedia Africana continues to inspire scholarship and activism, and Afrofuturism draws upon African history and culture to imagine a more equitable and vibrant future. Of course, there have been instances of Afrocentric overcorrections, such as the claim that Africans built the pyramids of Egypt. While African influence in ancient Egypt is undeniable, genetic studies have shown that the population of ancient Egypt was primarily of North African and Middle Eastern origin. The story of Africa is complex and nuanced. But while the truth is being uncovered, there's always the challenge of denial, distortion, and the persistence of old prejudices. However, by confronting these myths, we can gain a deeper understanding of African history. By examining the evidence, we can celebrate the achievement of its people and work towards a more just and equitable future. The narrative of a continent without history is crumbling, revealing a vibrant tapestry of innovation, resilience, and cultural richness. The story of Africa is just beginning to be told. Scene 1 open on a panoramic view of the African savanna at sunrise, golden light illuminating the landscape.